All right, you guys, what is going on? This is your town biz. So, I got to work a little bit early. So, I thought that I would put out a stream because I wanted to definitely talk about the nightmare that the Anthony family has experienced over the past, couple of weeks. And I don't wish this on anybody. And I'm going to say this once again. I'm sad that a life had to be lost in the wake of this tragedy. But at the same time, people need to remember that Carmelo Anthony is still under Texas state law. He is still a minor. So basically, the family held this first and only press conference, which I think, based off the temperament of what's going on, I feel like, yeah, maybe it's best that they shouldn't speak to the press anymore because the press has been very unfair to them. They have flat out lied on them. You had media putting out false information, lying on them, basically making a play to try to portray them as people that they're not, trying to portray them as typical, irresponsible, they should have never gave you niggas money type of people. When in fact, that is the opposite. Now, what the Anthony family has been going through these past couple of weeks is just horrible. Continuous death threats, people coming by their house, people, putting stuff by their door, just a lot of different things. People threatening the kids, the father, kids, children, threatening the mother. It's to the point to where the father had to take a leave of absence from his job because basically people were stalking him at his job. And I mean, like, come on. And then they were flat out lying about the money because keep in mind, they were putting out fake news, fake reports that they were spending the money on luxury goods, talking about that they put a down payment on a house and that they bought a new Escalade that basically they already had, and they were talking about where they live and all this kind of stuff. And come to find out that as of yesterday, they just now released the money. See, what you have to understand, even if you raise a certain amount of money, here's the thing. Depending on who your bank is, if it's a substantial amount of money, they can hold that money from 3 to 10 days. You put 100,000, and everybody that has a bank account primarily knows that if you deposit a check for $100,000, they could hold that check from, depending on who you bank with, anywhere from 3 to 10 days, business days. That means not including the weekend. So you possibly looking at, you know what I'm saying? You possibly looking at almost, you know what I'm saying, 2.5 weeks before you can receive your money. But the constant lies that they have told on this family, the smear campaign they have ran on this family, is sickening. I mean, it make me sick to my stomach. It's to the point to where I'm almost ready to get in my car and, drive out to Frisco, Texas. And I really can say my heart goes out to the family, what they going through, especially the mother. I'm not going to lie, I wish we would have heard from the father, but basically they said he was an emotional wreck because of the stuff that's happening to him. But I have to say to the father, you just stand tall and stand strong. That's real talk. And then they basically explain the process of him being granted, bail. And then keep in mind, they were lying about the judge. They were saying she was to the left. Come to find out, she's a registered Republican. She gave them their due process. Once again, Amber Geiger, she got, for what she did, her bail was around 200,000. The person that took out Tatiana Jefferson, same thing. But then they trying to change the rules for Carmelo Anthony. Are they trying to make it look like he got preferential treatment in which he didn't? He went through the same due process that everybody else did. He went through the same due process. And once again, he is a minor. He's a minor. He's 17. Now, some reports have him at 16, but he's between 16 and 17. I don't know exactly when his birthday is, but he's between 16 and 17. Nevertheless, he's still a minor. And to see people that outraged, and then you have people still trying to have the audacity to try to say that this isn't about race. Now, I'm also going to talk about later on how the father of the Metcalf twins tried to crash the press conference and how he was out of pocket for that. And he's basically helping their case, the Anthony case. I guess the apple don't fall too far from the tree. He tries to go in there with some dark shades on. He knew he didn't have no business being there. He tried to basically crowd their space. He had no right to be there. That was their moment. That was their time to tell their side of the story. He had no business bringing his ass there, and I'm glad that they escorted him out of there. Now, of course, you know, the white supremacists and the racists and the coons are going to try to side with him and try to make it look like something was done wrong, which, no, he shouldn't have been there. He didn't belong there. It wasn't his time. That was inappropriate for him to be there. And knowing with all this racial tension going on, he made it even worse. He made this situation even worse by showing up. He should have kept his distance. They're going to have a chance to tell what their version is of the story. And more information is starting to come out about what transpired. Now, first of all, from what I've seen and from what witnesses say, that event was not on school property. It was an event, I guess, hosted by the school district, but the location was not on school property. So that appears to be established, because that was something that a lot of these white supremacists was hanging their hat on, basically saying, "Oh, well, he brought a weapon on school property," which, come to find out, that wasn't school property. So the media has been putting out a lot of intentional misinformation. They have already shown their bias, which I think to a certain degree this could help the Anthony's defense. Then there's also reports that he didn't actually have an actual knife, that he had something that's used for, I don't know, I didn't know the specifics of it, some kind of object that's used for cliques or something. So, you know, it's a lot of information that has been bogus and false. The media has ran a full-fledged demonization, aka what they used to call back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, a picnic with the media, aka pick a nigga to lynch. And I mean, I just cannot believe some of the stuff I've saw online. Just outlandish stuff. You had some, and you had some white bitch, Torian Raines, sent to me talking about back in the day we used to lynch these type of people. And then basically everybody bombarded her social media, calling her a racist and all this kind of stuff. And basically they returned the threats back. Then she tries to clean it up by saying, oh, I was just joking. Y'all can't take a joke. Well, who in the fuck jokes like that? I think some of y'all need to understand something. We have weapons too. Yeah, see that's what I heard that he had. But until we get to court, that's just hearsay. But the whole thing about the school property thing, that's already been debunked. So a lot of stuff has been debunked. They have a few witnesses saying that those Metcalf twins started the whole thing, that they tried to jump him. Now, if in fact this turns out to be true, then he has a man. Then he's looking real good in this situation. And I saw people calling Tariq Nasheed's show, and one dude tried to call and flat out lie on Joe Brown and said that Joe Brown said that he's going to jail. He did not say that. He basically was explaining what went wrong and what it could possibly look like. And he flat out said, first of all, he was overcharged. And he flat out said that his bail was way too high. So I heard what Joe Brown said. I listened to it objectively. I didn't get extremely emotional. I didn't get upset. He just basically gave his standpoint. He gave his point of view. It was nothing good or nothing bad directed towards um, Carmelo Anthony. But I will say this much: salute to both the parents. Did you know his mother is a stay-at-home mom? His mother is a stay-at-home mom that the father pays all the bills pretty much. I don't know what his I don't know what he does for a living. I don't know what his you know, his work trade is, but apparently he's doing very well. He's in a good enough situation to where basically she doesn't have to work. And they have 3 children. But listening to the mom talk, I got really upset and I was angered because at the end of the day, nobody's taking into place that these are children that they're threatening. One of her daughters, I think, is I think they have children 17, 13, and I think 9. But for people to be sending them letters threatening to take out the whole family, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with people? And what I find mighty funny is they have all this outrage and vitriol for a 17-year-old where basically it was an incident between 2 minors that took place. But there was none of this outrage with George Zimmerman when George Zimmerman shot and killed a 17-year-old kid. There wasn't people like they wasn't people beating down his door. I can guarantee you nobody wasn't sending him death threats. But you got people sitting up here harassing this family. Harassing, trying to bully this family. And then you had people lying. And by the way, they should sue the New York Post because the New York Post was one of those mainstream media outlets that put out fake information saying that they went and bought a new car, a new house, and all that kind of stuff, which turned out to be absolutely false. So they should sue the New York Post. They just now got released the money. It was all lies. And then the thing is with George Zimmerman, what bothers me, George Zimmerman taunted Trayvon Martin's family. You had people walking up to George Zimmerman, and this is how this is this is how vile a lot of them are, and despicable a lot of them are. They actually were walking up to George Zimmerman, asking him to sign autograph a bag of Skittles. And then allegedly he sold the gun that he murdered Trayvon Martin with for like $250,000. So he basically profited off of taking somebody's life. But here it is, you had people that were sitting up here saying that they shouldn't be given the money that was raised to get them proper representation. Kyle Rittenhouse had over $2 million raised for him. I doubt very seriously if all that money went on the attorney. And by the way, he has something to say with his sorry white ass. You need to stay out of this. People need to tell Kyle Rittenhouse to stay out of this. Because the difference between Carmelo Anthony and you purposely went state to state with a weapon you wasn't supposed to have that was illegally purchased for you, and you plowed down like between 3 and 4 people. You went there with the intentions to harm somebody. Carmelo Anthony, all he wanted to do was watch a track meet. Now, this so-called tent that they showed, if that's the actual tent, he went into the tent because it was raining. And as you guys know, if it's raining, you might not want to get on the phone because you could damage your phone. And then there's also reports that the tent where he was sitting at, a witness said that his daughters was over there in that area. So my thing was, why did those Metcalf twins single him out? And then there's people that said, well, there was really no security there. So basically they basically are saying that they had no right to tell him he had to leave. I say this once again, they're not security. If somebody is in a part of an arena that they're not supposed to be at, that's why you go get security. But more and more information is going to come out. I promise you. Hey, listen, dude. I'm about to block you. What part you don't understand that Texas is an open carry state? That you have a right to have a weapon on you. Actually, why is everybody in Texas walking around with a gun? So you trying to come on here, yeah, get rid of him. Yeah, get rid of him. We not doing this. Get rid of him. Everybody knows Texas is an open carry state. It hasn't even been determined on whether he had a knife. Why is everybody in Texas carrying a gun if it's an open carry state? Because you can. So now all of a sudden, see, there's the racism right there. Why did Kyle Rittenhouse have a weapon he wasn't supposed to have that he took across state lines? So that's the thing. Yeah, I'm reading the comment section. That was, he took shelter. That's all he was trying to do. He was trying to take temporary shelter from the rain. Once again, why were they so bothered about him sitting over there? Why were they the only ones that went over there trying to approach him? And then why did they try to touch his personal property? I think the reason why the father went there, I think the father went there trying fishing. And I think the father is worried that something is going to come out about his son's uh characteristics. But like I said, the father made it worse after doing some press conference, basically saying, hey, let's not make this a political thing. Let's just wait till everything, let's just wait till all the facts come out, and then let's just, take care of this in the court of law. But by him going there, he showed that he was full of it. Why go there trying to intimidate the family? Why go there? So you basically perpetuating what's been going on. You part of the problem. You shouldn't have went there. No reason for you to be there. So you basically, by you going there and trying to intrude on their press conference, you made the situation worse. You made it even worse. So you're playing into it. You're gaslighting the racial tension. You're gaslighting it. You're proving that this is an issue of race. You're proving. You showing whose side that you really on. After you sat up there and said, hey, I don't want this to turn into a political thing, but by you sitting up there trying to crash the press conference that the family had every right to hold, you showing who you may really be. You went there trying to bully them, trying to intimidate them. So if it comes out that your sons were the ones that instigated, perpetuated the whole situation and antagonized the situation, well, now we seeing where they got it from. Well, here's the thing. If I have to go to Frisco, Texas, I will. Now, I encourage the family to just, keep praying. Arm yourselves. And if there's people that know the Anthony family, if y'all willing to, do y'all thing, do y'all thing. Because this is a time where we just gonna have to be ready to fight back. That's the main reason why they falling apart, because they saw people get on code and stand tall and stand strong to basically help this family. Now, of course, you had the usual suspects getting online, cooning it up as usual. The people that you expected, the tater tots of the world, the other goofy short dude from Detroit that tried to lie and say he came up with the terminology cam, and everybody knows I came up with that. And a few other people, the fat dude that got ran off of every major sports media outlet you could think of because he just couldn't cut the mustard. But nevertheless, appreciate you guys being here. I gotta start work. It's your boy Tim. I'm out.